Right, another big day in news, and to chat about what's in the papers this morning, I thought we'd have a chat to New South Wales Liberal Senator Holly Hughes, who's been kind enough to spare some time on a Sunday morning, and I think she might still be on holidays. Am I right, Holly?
No, I am back.
You're back?
Yes, unfortunately, I got back yesterday.
Right.
We extended by a day. The weather was far too gorgeous down the coast, but I am back.
Great. How was it, by the way? We've heard reports of people travelling up and down the coast and not venturing into Queensland or Victoria. It must have been packed, was it?
Look, it actually wasn't. And on Friday in particular, I was down at Huskisson. It was eerily quiet in the main street.
Right.
But also, what's absolutely devastating to see is the number of particularly restaurants and hospitality venues that are closed, that are either closing early and only doing one lunch service or a breakfast service.
Yeah.
The place where we stayed is normally open for lunch and dinner. Their restaurant, it was only open for dinner because they cannot get staff.
Yeah.
And this, people are still getting paid to isolate is causing a little bit of an issue with staff just not wanting to work or turn up.
Yeah, while we're on that subject, there's a story by Jane Hanson in this morning's Sunday Telegraph about all the unvaccinated patients clogging all ICU beds in the Byron Shire. As a spokesman for the hospital said, it was exactly what they feared. And it's a very selfish, ignorant bunch of people, aren't they?
Look, it is. And if people haven't got the message by now that you are 12 more times likely to end up in hospital and ICU if you're unvaccinated, people have been getting vaccinated now for well over a year. So we're around a year. So we're starting to see that the consequences or side effects far outweigh any risk to receiving a vaccine. And I think these people that are still refusing on ideological grounds are incredibly selfish.
I wonder whether the Byron locals who are in ICU, I wonder whether they're still in denial as they stay alive with the help of a ventilator.
Well, or is it the healing light and the online chants that they're delivering, apparently? I mean, it's just ludicrous. I mean, it's insulting to everybody else who's done the right thing that these people are still behaving in this way.
And apparently, leading up to Christmas, according to the story as well, there were a series of Catchcovered parties because they were fearless.
Oh, it's just absolutely appalling behaviour by people that seem to think that I don't know what they think. I honestly can't understand. I went out and got my jab as soon as I was eligible. I got my second shot as soon as I could. I got my booster as soon as I could. And we're seeing it everywhere across Sydney now. Whilst the numbers are high, people are reporting symptoms for 2-3 days that best resemble a cold.
Yep.
Yes, some people are more affected, but we also know that the numbers in hospital are inflated because people are going in to have a baby or going in after an accident. And when they test positive for COVID in hospital, even though they were asymptomatic otherwise, they're being added to the numbers. So the numbers aren't truly reflective of those being treated just for COVID in hospitals either. So, getting vaccinated is incredibly important.
Yep. I want to talk about getting back to school and also Novak Djokovic versus the Immigration Minister, but I need a break and we'll come back with Liberal Senator in New South Wales, Holly Hughes. Returning to New South Wales Liberal Senator Holly Hughes. Holly, the whole going back to school issue has become more than a drama because we've got teachers and education unions saying schools aren't ready, kids will get sick, which means teachers will have to isolate and then their kids will get sick, and we've got some hysterical parents not wanting to send their children to school. They need and must go back to the classroom. Will you be sending your kids back to school?
Absolutely, I'll be sending my kids back to school. And I think, when we think of the numbers of kids over 12 who are vaccinated now, this is a moot point when you're coming to sort of year 6 and above almost with the volume of kids that are vaccinated. 5 to 11 are starting to get their jabs now. But we know the damage that's being done to kids' mental health by all the disruptions to schools. There's been more than enough time to get things ready. Last year was predominantly online learning for most kids, and it's got to stop. We know that kids are less likely to transmit it. Younger children don't have the protein that the COVID virus attaches itself to.
Yep.
So I think it is misplaced hysteria But really, what do we expect? Unions causing problems for a Conservative government in the lead up to election? Anyone shocked? Anyone shocked? Hands up, who's got a...
They've obviously had a big powwow over the Christmas break and said, righto, we're on the brink of an election here. Go hard.
Yep, obviously.
Yeah.
The unions are there causing these problems because if you talk to most sensible teachers, they absolutely are keen to get back into the classroom. They know their best place to teach from that environment. The kids are best place to learn. It's better for their mental health. It's better for everyone's mental health. And I've got one with special needs, and I can tell you they need certainty. Yep. And these questions that hang over, not everyone's child is neurotypical and developing normally. And, there are kids that require structure, kids that require certainty. And they haven't had that for 2 years, and enough's enough. It's time to go back. And as we were just talking about, this variant, this Omicron that's now become, the dominant strain, for most people, and particularly those vaccinated, it's 2 or 3 days of minor symptoms. And I think, we've got to move on.
We've got to move on.
We've got to go back to normal.
And if we want perfection, Holly, that means we've got to wait until the COVID-19 is gone from the community entirely. So how many years will that be?
But you know what? I got a cold the other week. Didn't have COVID, had a test, got a cold. They still exist. So does the flu. So did gastro. So does a whole lot of other viruses that go through our community. So what are we going to do? Shut down when we get a flu season? Yeah. We're still not talking about the fact that 5 years ago, we had 7,000 people in hospital with the flu. No one was talking about lockdowns and shutdowns then. But is this the new normal when people, get sick or there's an outbreak of something that we lock everything down again? Yep. We can't continue this way.
Yeah, people who are not convinced of that need to go back and have a real good look at what happened in this state in 2017. I spoke to someone from the Education Union on Friday night, interviewed them, and they were whinging and complaining about the fact that there's no plan for getting back to school. And I said, well, hang on, school doesn't go back tomorrow. I said, what do you mean? We've heard from the Premier all week that a scheme and a set of protocols will be introduced and announced next week. What are you complaining about? Of course they don't have a plan yet because they've got to make decisions based on their access to rapid antigen tests, what principals in the education department think will work more efficiently. They just want to whinge for the sake of whinging.
Well, and teachers have had more than enough time to get themselves vaccinated as well. So, it's reliant on everybody playing their part. And if you are sick, stay home. If you're not going to see vulnerable people, if you're not putting yourself out in the community, if you can isolate if you feel sick, do that.
Yeah, simple.
Why does everybody need to be told, oh, it's COVID, it's not COVID either? That, I think, is getting to the point of hysteria.
Yeah, it's like QR codes. We don't need QR codes right now because what we're told when we check into places, and if someone was there having COVID, is you get an alert that says, watch for symptoms. Well, You know what? I'm watching for symptoms anyway.
Well, I think we all are now.
It's just ridiculous. Now, D-Day for Djokovic. His fate will be decided once and for all in the federal court today by 3 judges, Chief Justice James Alsop, Justice Anthony Besanko and Justice David O'Callaghan. The government really had no choice here if they wanted to stick to the line of unvaccinated people not being allowed in.
Well, I think this whole situation's come about with confusion over what information was given by Tennis Australia and the Victorian state government that was contradictory, that was required by Australian Border Force. That's how we ended up in this mess in the first place. But to be honest with you, Chris, the decision's going to be made. It'll be made whenever it's made. But I'm more interested, Kokonakis won ATP in Adelaide last night, his first one ever. Ash Barty's the Australian number 1. Look, I can't wait to watch them play. I think as Australians we should be really proud of the people we've got playing for us, representing our country. And I don't, the grace that they've handled themselves with, I'm more interested in hearing about them. Yeah,
I'm with you. Fantastic to have you on the radio on a Sunday morning. And we'll see each other in another place at another time.
We shall do.
Thanks, Holly.
Thanks, Chris. Have a great day.
Good on you. New South Wales Liberal Senator Holly Hughes.